Every morning at 5 a.m. he would set out to sea, returning alone each evening. The villagers pitied him. Poor old man, he never talks. When the cartel attack began and the first gunshot rang out, the poor old man disappeared. Miguel Santos, 62 years old, was the only fisherman living in the San Carlos Cove. Every morning before dawn, without even drinking coffee, he would head to sea in his old white wooden boat. La Esperanza, Hope, the boat he had named, had been his only companion for 25 years. The villagers knew him, but nobody really knew him. Rosa, the store owner, would say, "For 15 years he's been buying the same things, bread, canned food, cigarettes, never any change, like he's a robot." The village children called him El Viejo Silencioso, the silent old man. Miguel never spoke a word when shopping at the market, just handed over money and nodded in greeting. Sometimes he would sit alone at the corner table in the village cafe, reading old newspapers, never making eye contact with anyone. "Poor man," said Maria, the village postwoman. "No family, no friends, just that old boat. What does he do alone in his house at night, I wonder?" Miguel's house was very different from what the villagers imagined, though it appeared ordinary from the outside. Single-story, whitewashed, small house. The interior was arranged with military precision. Everything in its place, no luxury items, but every detail planned. Door and window positions, escape routes, defensive points. Everything strategically considered. Behind the bedroom closet, there was a hidden compartment, double wall, professional concealment technique. Inside were items the villagers would never see: a Navy SEAL trident medal, gold-colored, heavy, cold metal, a faded black and white photograph, young Miguel and his SEAL Team's 6 companions, all young, all smiling, all dead. Yellow documents marked Operation Red Dawn, classified with worn edges, and a carefully preserved Sig Sauer P226 pistol, clean, oiled, no rust. Every night, Miguel would look at these items, especially the photograph. 8-man team. Now only he was alive. Tim, Jack, Rodriguez, Williams, Chen, Murphy, Davis. All had died in various operations. Miguel felt the weight of being the sole survivor on his shoulders every night. Survivor's guilt. Why him? Why not them? These questions had been eating at his mind for 25 years. When he came to this small Mexican village 25 years ago, he had only a little money and the desire to escape his past. War had shattered him. Once he was in the world's most elite military unit, expert in sea, air, land operations, 47 successful missions, the only team leader who never lost anyone. He was known by the code name Ghost Leader. Now he was just an old, lonely, silent fisherman, and he wanted to stay that way. Because when the war ended, he was forced to be a hero. But he just wanted to be a normal person who missed his friends, spent his nights having nightmares, and wanted to be ordinary. That Tuesday morning began like any other. Miguel woke at 4:30 a.m., walked to the shore without even drinking coffee. The smell of the sea filled his nostrils, a mixture of salt, seaweed, and freedom. His boat waited in its usual spot, anchored and ready. As he started the engine, the village was still asleep. The old diesel engine of La Esperanza coughed to life. The same sound, same vibration for 25 years. Miguel loved this sound because it reminded him of homecoming, not his real home, but the home he had chosen. Hours passed at sea. Miguel wasn't really fishing. He just sat in the middle of the ocean, in the shadow of the seagulls, in silence. This was his meditation, his escape from the past. The blue of the sea, the calm of the horizon, this area where no human voice existed. This was his hospital, his therapist, his medicine. The only difference that day was the dream. He had the same nightmares again that night. The last operation in Afghanistan, Tim getting shot, Jack lost in the explosion. 25 years had passed, but his brain still lived those moments fresh. Sitting at sea, he remembered Tim's last words: "Miguel, go home. Don't stay here." In the afternoon, he decided to return to shore. As his boat approached the shore, the first thing he noticed was the silence. The village was too quiet. At normal hours, there would be children's voices, dogs barking, women talking, vendors shouting. Now there was none of that. Miguel stopped before his boat reached the shore. SEAL training kicked in. Every abnormal situation is a potential threat. Then he saw them. Black SUVs, 5 of them, parked at the village entrance, vehicles with bullet holes in their bodies and license plates scratched off. Miguel analyzed the situation immediately with his long-range combat experience. Armed men, professional positions, radio usage, vehicle convoy formation, cartel, and experienced cartel. Before his boat reached shore, Miguel found an alternative landing point, a hidden cove behind the rocks. He anchored his boat there and began walking toward the village via the coastal road. As he approached the village square, the sounds he heard were sickening: crying sounds, pleading sounds, and harsh male voices. The scene in the village square was horrible. All the villagers were on the ground, hands behind their backs zip-tied, surrounded by men in bulletproof vests with automatic weapons standing guard. Children were crying, women were silently shedding tears, men were helplessly looking at the ground. The cartel was Los Hermanos group. Miguel recognized them from their weapons and tactics. Professional, ruthless, not the type who killed just for money. These fought for territory, killed to send messages. "Every household in this village will pay us a monthly protection fee of $500, said the leader. A man with a black bandana, dark-skinned, short but powerfully built, known as El Martillo, the hammer. Miguel remembered the stories he'd heard about him. He controlled more than 30 villages. "What about those who can't pay?" called out the village's old priest, Padre Jose. His voice trembled, but there was determination. El Martillo laughed coldly. "Then they become fuel. We burn their houses with them inside. We tried it in Colombia. It works." The children's crying intensified. Miguel saw Maria's 8-year-old son Carlos trying to hide behind a tree. The little child was trembling with terror, pressing his hand to his mouth, trying not to make a sound. Miguel stood in the background, his fishing hat pulled down, analyzing the situation. No one had noticed him yet. Good. The surprise factor was in his hands. $500 is a lot of money, said Diego, the village head man. His voice came out hoarse. "We're a poor village. Fishing is hard, no tourism." The cartel leader approached Diego. His smile disappeared. "Then let me teach you what poverty really is, viejo." El Martillo punched Diego in the face, a powerful professional blow. The old headman fell to the ground, blood coming from his mouth, his glasses broken. Miguel's jaw tightened. For the first time in 25 years, SEAL training automatically kicked in. Chapter 6. The trigger moment. At that moment, little Carlos began to cry, very loudly, with uncontrollable sobs. One of the cartel members walked toward the child. "Stop that noise," the man said, pointing his gun at the child's head. "Please," Maria pleaded. "He's just a child." "Children talk to police when they grow up," said the cartel leader. "Let's solve the problem early." Carlos looked at Miguel. The little child didn't know him well, but there was a plea for help in his eyes. "Abuelo," he whispered, "I'm scared." At that moment, Miguel Santos disappeared. In his place appeared United States Navy SEAL Petty Officer First Class Miguel Santos. Miguel crouched down and whispered in Carlos's ear, "Run home. Hide with your mother in the bathroom. Lock the door and never come out." "What about you?" "I'm going fishing." The child noticed the change in Miguel's voice. There was no longer a trembling old voice. Instead, there was a calm, confident, commanding voice. Carlos ran away and disappeared. Miguel slowly walked toward the shore, but not to board his boat. He opened the equipment box on his boat. At the bottom was a package he hadn't touched for 25 years, carefully wrapped in oiled cloth. Sig Sauer P26, spare magazines, and tactical knife. He checked the weapon. Clean, oiled, perfect condition. He loaded the magazines. Muscle memory returned as if 25 years hadn't passed. His hands weren't trembling. Pulse normal. Mind crystal clear. The warrior had returned. Miguel quickly analyzed the situation. 12 armed men, M4 and AK-47 type automatic weapons, bulletproof vests. The villagers were defenseless and in the open. The nearest police station was 50 kilometers away. Even if they came, it would take 30 minutes. No help was coming. But Miguel had advantages, and they were big advantages. He knew the terrain perfectly for 25 years. Every corner of the village, every hidden path, every escape point, wind patterns, shadow areas. The enemy didn't know the area, they had only come from the main road. He took position. The coastal rocks offered a perfect sniper position. Height advantage, natural camouflage, 360-degree field of view. 150 meters optimal range, open targets, multiple escape routes pre-calculated. A battle plan formed in his mind. First target, the leader. Once he neutralized him, the others would lose command structure. Second, the radio operator. He would cut communications. They couldn't call for reinforcements. Third, the heavy weapons carrier. Eliminate the biggest threat. Then methodically, one by one, silently. This was different from Afghanistan. There the enemy was expecting them. Here no one even saw him. There he was with a team. Here he was alone. But the villagers were under his protection. This was his chosen mission. Breathing exercises, pulse control, wind calculation, light east to west, humidity, temperature, noise masking, everything was ready. After the first shot, he would have a maximum of 30 minutes. When the first gunshot came from the village square, the shot that killed Diego, Miguel was already in position. First shot, the cartel leader, standing over Diego, 150-meter distance, hard target. The man fell to the ground with a sudden jolt. Panic began. ¿Dónde está el tirador? Where's the sniper? Miguel took the second shot. The radio operator fell. Communications were cut. Third shot, the heavy weapons carrier. Cartel members started running, but they didn't know where to run. They couldn't see Miguel. SEAL training took over. Every shot calculated, every position change planned. Fourth, fifth, sixth. It lasted 30 minutes, 12 men in 12 minutes, each one with a single shot, silently, methodically. The villagers were in. I've been a fisherman for 25 years. And before that, a longer silence. Miguel turned and looked at the villagers. At each of their faces, one by one, Carlos, Maria, Rosa, Diego, Padre Jose, the people he protected, his new family. There was no longer fatigue and loneliness in his eyes. Instead, there was warmth and protectiveness. Before that, I protected villages. Nothing was the same after that day. No one called Miguel poor old man. The villagers began calling him Don Miguel, with respect, with love, with gratitude, but more importantly, without fear. For the first time in 25 years, Miguel sat with the villagers in the village cafe. Rosa prepared a special table for him, his favorite chair. He didn't talk much, but he listened. And the villagers never asked about his story. Some questions shouldn't be asked. Some answers were already written in the eyes. Little Carlos began visiting Miguel every day. Don Miguel, will you teach me how to fish? He would say. Fishing isn't just about patience, Miguel would say. First, you must learn to be silent, then to be patient, and finally, when to take action. Why? Because fish run away from people who make noise. But they trust those who are silent. They befriend those who are patient. And those who act at the right time, they respect them. Carlos wasn't just learning how to fish from Miguel. He was learning discipline, calmness, how to stay calm without fear. Miguel was teaching without realizing it. Carlos was learning without realizing it. Miguel began going to sea again, but he was no longer alone. The villagers watched over him, and he watched over the villagers. When leaving his house, he would hear, Cuídate, Don Miguel, take care of yourself. When returning home, he would receive, Bienvenido, welcome back greetings. And at night, he no longer looked sadly at photographs of the past. Instead, he watched the lights in the village windows, listened to children's laughter, and felt happiness seeing life continue. For the first time in 25 years, he wasn't alone. A week later, police came to the village for crime scene investigation. Nobody can make shots this precise, said the police commander. This is professional work, someone with military training. The villagers looked at each other, but no one spoke. Are there any witnesses? No, said Padre Jose. We were all in our homes. We were scared. The police turned to Miguel. Were you also in your house? I was at sea, said Miguel. Fishing. Do you have any witnesses? Miguel smiled. Fish don't talk. The police left. The case was closed. It was recorded as settlement between cartel gangs. And Miguel Santos continued to live peacefully in his village, no longer as poor old man, but as Don Miguel. Some stories are told more beautifully with silence. Some heroes prefer to remain invisible. And sometimes, the strongest protection comes from a past no one knows about.